Okay, so I'm going to go through this first part here a little bit slower, just so if you were struggling on that bit, you'll be able to figure out where I'm getting it from. So again, we know from the previous video that what I'm doing is I'm completing the square. So if I'm completing the square, I need to change this to be in the form of ax minus b to b squared plus c. And those two parts there are going to give me my maximum height. So first thing I need to do is take out what's common from the first part, so that's minus 4.9. I'm left with t squared minus 240 over 49t, and then the plus 1. Now, if you're not sure where I'm getting that from, what I'm doing there is to take something out as common, you have to basically divide both parts by that. So when I divide the minus 4.9t by minus 4.9, that's why you're left with the 1. I do the same with this, so I have to take it out as common, which means I have to divide this by this. And when I do that, I end up with this value here. So I'm keeping things, if I can at all possible, as a fraction, because it's going to make it more exact. Next step then is to change this so that it's not in terms of t squared and t, and then I can get rid of this plus 1. So I'll have minus 4.9, I know it's t minus, I now must divide this by 2 to make that 120 over 49, and then that is squared, and then my plus 1 is left off there, because when I multiply this out, I need to figure out what I need to add to here to get it back to the plus 1. So I'm going to just put my line down here, and these are going to be my workings. Now what I mean by workings is I'm going to multiply this out and see what I need to do to get it back to this. So for my workings, I have minus 4.9 by t minus 120 over 49 by the same thing. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more room, and I'm going to multiply this out. So t minus 120 over 49. So when I do that, if I go to multiply these two brackets, I'm going to multiply t by t, so on and so forth, and I'll end up getting t squared minus 120 over 49t minus 120 over 49t, and I'll need to multiply this by this. Now when you do that, you're going to see that you get a massive fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave that. I know minus by minus is going to give me a plus. I'm going to leave them in fraction form, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so technically I still need to multiply by this minus 4.9 on the outside. So that when I do that, I'll add these two together, multiply them by 4.9. So my first bit will be minus 4.9t squared, which is the start of it. I know when I put that and that together and I multiply it by my 4.9, I'm going to end up with 24t, and it's a plus. And when I multiply that by that multiplied by that, I will see the answer that I'm getting is minus 1440 over 49. So that is the reason why I didn't leave them in decimal place, because if I'd written out the decimal here, I would have rounded and I wouldn't have gotten this exact figure. I'd end up with another decimal at this stage, which is not what I wanted. So just if that happens, use the exact figure in the calculator or keep it as the answer button or something, or keep them as fractions, just to try and keep it as accurate as possible. So from that then, I know that I don't want this here. I want it to be what my sum originally was, and my sum originally was this up here, plus 1. So how do I get that back to plus 1? Well, what I'll have to do is I'll have to add one of those, because that's going to bring me back to 0, because then all I have to do from that is to add another 1. So that when I check and see what both of these add to give me, they will add to give me 1489 over 49, and that is what I put in here. And the reason why I put that in here is to make it back to the original. So all I have to do is put plus 1489 over 49. And now I know from what we were saying about this bit here that this and this are going to be my maximum point. So my max point is change the sign in front of the one on the inside, and I keep the sign of this one over 49. But the last thing we have to be careful here, that's the maximum point. They want the maximum height. Height is along the y-axis, so I'm taking the y point. So 1489 over 49. And if you check what that is, it's 31 point something, and that's in and around what we wanted. Let me just double check and make sure that's what it is. 89 divided by 49. And that is, yeah, 30.38. And our part D then is talking about find the percentage error. So this one here, this is the exact, a percentage error was when we got 31. So if I take my 31 and minus this, it'll give me how wrong I was. And that answer is 30 over 49, or 0.6122. So from there, to find my percentage error, this is for part D now, all I have to do is I have to put my error, which is this part here, over the correct answer, which is this part here, because it's saying to find it as a percentage of the exact value. So then I put my 30 over 49 and I divide it by the correct answer of 1489 over 49. Check what that is, multiply it by 100 to get a percentage, and my percentage comes out at around 2%. And that's how you finish off that last bit.